Welcome to episode 109 of the Giant Take podcast. I am Josh and I am joined by my co-host Alex. We are here to record another podcast, audio and video for this one. So if you're listening, you can watch it. If you're watching, you can listen, whatever you want to do. Because we have a very special guest this week for this episode, Mr. Kenny Albert. Very exciting chat with him coming up for you guys to listen to in a little bit. And it comes at a time where we have a lot of Giants news as well. So a packed intro with a packed interview. It's going to be a bang episode here. Since we're on a video for this one, Alex had to do the hair, a little pre-production, get it straightened out, all good stuff like that. We have a Patriots game to run through that I'll do right now. A 22-20 victory for the Patriots. A little heroic Hail Mary from the Giants, but not so heroic 2-point conversion. But yeah, I guess we'll start with that. So I don't want to give away too much before introducing my co-host. Alex, what'd you think about Sunday's little celebration for the B-Day, and how are you?
I'm doing well. I thought that was an enjoyable experience. Besides the Giants not playing very well throughout many portions of the game. I thought there was bright spots with Daniel Jones. I thought he looked decent aside from the interception, actually. Obviously, that was pretty terrible. Don't really want to talk about it. We'll see how it shapes up week one. But besides that, I thought there was some decent play from certain pockets. Offensive line, once again, did not look very good. Hence, maybe the reason that the Giants took so much action in the trade market, actually, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, I enjoyed going to the game. The atmosphere at MetLife Stadium is always fun, except for the fact that there was a little bit too many Patriots fans.
There were a lot of Patriots fans, and I don't know. Especially in our section, we were up top, which I don't know why that was. I guess they made the drive, or there's a lot that live in this metro area. Obviously, we know one, in our friend Peter, who's also one of the co-hosts on Talking Blues podcast, if you want to go check that out. But yeah, it was a fun game. I think it was, it was a fun environment to watch with all my friends. It was really exciting. And Alex, I guess if you are watching, appreciate the gift right up here. If you can tell the Giants card collection to what I'm pointing to, if you're watching this. If not, then basically Alex got me this plaque of like Giant all-time greats, and it has like their playing card, including, Phil Simms, Michael Strahan. I know Carl Banks is on that list, but a very cool. I think Eli Manning's up there as well. But yeah, very exciting stuff. So thank you, Alex, for that gift. I guess we'll get right into this episode. We have the 53-man roster that was announced yesterday, although it was the original, we don't have an updated, 53-man roster, but I guess I'll read to you what the Giants did announce yesterday, and then we'll get into all of the cuts, and the waiver signings that did happen today, as well as the practice squad additions. The quarterbacks. Also, if you want to check out my initial reaction, sorry to plug it, go to the YouTube channel and check out that I recorded yesterday. It was released this morning as we're recording on Wednesday. You're listening on Thursday or after that, whatever it is. But anyway, quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Mike Glennon. I don't know, Alex, chime in if you want to like switch off offense, defense. Maybe you do defense if that works for you. Saquon Barkley, Devontae Booker, Gary Brightwell. And the interesting part here, Cullen Gillespie and Elijah Penny. Two running backs on the list, obviously as a roster spot, but both are fullbacks. So interested to see about that. Offensive line, Ben Bredesen. We'll get into that. Who is Ben Bredesen? Leave that as like a claim, a hook for the reader to keep going. Nick Gates, Will Hernandez, Shane Lemieux, Matt Peart, Billy Price, another, who is that? Nate Soldier, Andrew Thomas at the offensive line. Wide receivers, CJ Board, Kenny Golladay, Dante Pettis, John Ross, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slay, and Kadarius Toney. And the three tight ends on the roster, Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph, and Caden Smith. Alex, you take it away with the defensive end of things.
Yep, moving to defense now. We'll start with the defensive line. Austin Johnson, Raymond Johnson III, Justin Pennick, big fan of him, so I'm sure he's happy about that. Still is on the roster, by the way, even after some of these movements, so that's always a good thing too. Danny Shelton, Leonard Williams, finish out that defensive line. Going to the linebackers, we got Cam Brown, Lorenzo Carter, Carter Coughlin, Tay Crowder, Trent Harris, who I thought was very good. He ends up getting cut, actually. But Blake Martinez, Aziz Ojulari, Reggie Ragland, Ellerson Smith, O'Shane Zimenez. And for the defensive backs, Sam Beal, James Bradbury, Keon Crossan, an interesting one, Darnay Holmes, Adoree Jackson, Josh Jackson, another interesting one who's made the roster with limited showing, Julian Love, Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, Logan Ryan, and Rodarius Williams, and special teams, Riley Dixon and Graham Gano. You'll notice no Casey Kreider because they cut him for some of the moves later. But yeah, I kind of have a good idea of who they replaced. So when we get to the areas there, we'll check that out and describe what happened.
Yeah, so like you were saying, we had a few different movements after this. I think the one question mark going into this 53-man roster, a player that I did see making it was Sam Beal, somehow still making it onto the team after all that poor performance, opting out last season, that's fine, but didn't always look so good, yet still here on this roster. And I guess we'll go to the cuts now, Alex, that happened yesterday. Corey Clement, the big one. Gary Brightwell, running back, 6th-round pick for the New York Giants, beating out Corey Clement, the veteran running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll add that in now because I had that as one of the bullet points in the docs that I wanted to mention. The man does not leave the NFC East. It's his favorite area to play in. As Cowboys, one of our arch nemesis here in the NFC East, are signing Corey Clement to their active roster. And yeah, stays in the NFC East. So good for him, I guess.
I would also say I just got the news now. Our friend Madre Harper also got picked up by the Raiders. Very
practice squad, though.
Was it the practice squad? Very interesting that he got picked up considering how bad he is.
Damn. Yeah, I know people were commenting on whoever verified it on Twitter saying good luck, good luck Raiders with Madre Harper there. But yes, practice squad, active roster for Clement, practice squad for Madre Harper for right now. We'll see what happens. And I'm trying to think of any. Devontae Downs, we were finally waiting for that as Giants fans and doubters of Devontae Downs. He finally gets cut. And we had all the rookie or second-year wide receivers getting cut as well, Alex. David Sills, Alex Bachman were two of them. And who else? Matt Cole was cut. David Willis was cut. And there's one more that I'm thinking. Austin Mack was also cut. So those were the guys who got cut there. And I think, obviously there were more cuts today, and we should get into that in a second. But first of all, there are two people on this roster that, people, listeners of our podcast might not know about. So I think we should get to those offensive linemen. Do you want to read those trades?
Yeah, sure. So let's get into these two trades for two, I would say, backup caliber offensive linemen, but we'll see what they turn into, especially Price has a lot of potential. But first, we'll go in chronological order of how they happened. It was Billy Price, offensive lineman, guard/center from the Bengals. They traded BJ Hill, who's obviously in his contract year, to the Bengals for offensive lineman Billy Price. Billy Price was on the Bengals, the 2018 first-round pick, started 19 games the last 3 seasons, a lot of games hampered by injury. So there was that trade there. And then the Giants sent over a 4th-round pick to the Ravens for guard Ben Bredesen. There we go. Got it. And we got back in exchange a 5th and a 7th. So not bad deals there, kind of just throwing up and hoping that one of these guys works out. But I think it's important. They're upgrades over the Chad Slades of the world. So I think these are some good moves. Hopefully they work out. We'll see how they function in. Obviously, the news with Shane Lemieux that he might be having some more long-term issues could play a factor into these trades.
And something I didn't mention when I was talking about the roster cuts, a lot of those guys were cut, Alex, the first or second year players, not just wide receivers, but offensive line. Kenny Wiggins, Jake Burton, right? Who you were just saying, Chad Slade was also gone. And there were a few others involved in there as well. I would have to get to the specifics and scroll all the way down my chart here that I, of course, have from all of the cuts yesterday. But I mean, if you have any, Kenny Wiggins, I said that. And
there was not Jake Burton, one of the Burtons, I think.
Jackson Barton.
Barton. One of them got cut and then one of them stayed, but then another got cut and then they stayed. Something weird, complicated. If I look at the roster here, I don't believe I think one of the Slades or whatever made it. Did they not? I'm not sure now,
There are
but
multiple slates.
there was a Slade and then a Slot or something.
I don't know. I think we're just making up names now at
Yeah,
this point.
we're just getting up new Giants. But yeah, most of those guys are out. And obviously also Dante Pettis ends up being cut later in the day today, which
Yeah.
was interesting to bring in another wide receiver who was claimed by the Giants.
And we should talk about CJ Board too.
And CJ Board was cut, but then he was brought back, which is another
Yes.
interesting thing.
Yes.
So CJ Board was cut. He was brought back, along with Casey Kreider was also brought back. So I assume they had some sort of little agreement like, hey, we're just doing this while we get our waivers and all that stuff done. And obviously the waivers are closed now. So we'll see what happens now. Everyone's free agents, so anyone could go to anyone. But yeah, the Giants picked up a few people on waivers, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of cut you off on your way to talk about that waivered wide receiver. So you start off with that, Alex.
Yeah, so we started with this waiver wide receiver, Colin Johnson. He was a 5th-round pick. I really liked him, actually, coming out of college in this year's draft. Played 14 games, had 18 receptions, 272 yards, and 2 touchdowns in college. Nothing crazy, but I think he's 6'6", which is the big talking point. We don't have that wide receiver who's really like 6'6" level. But he was definitely an intriguing player, and I think he'll be an interesting acquisition there. We also claimed Justin Hillard, linebacker, who was very good for the 49ers in their defensive reserves during preseason. He picked up 15 tackles, 8 stops, and he was all over the field. And Giants having a serious lack at linebacker, this was a good hole to fill. And finally, my favorite here, Giants also claimed edge rusher Quincy Roche. Pittsburgh selected Roche in the 6th round of the 2021 draft out of Miami. A lot of people saw him going 3rd, 4th round. He ended up going 6th round due to some injury concerns, I believe. But obviously the injuries, maybe they're a concern, maybe they're not. But the Giants picked him up, and I'm excited. Obviously, we need more potential down that edge, and he was a really like boom or bust type of guy. Obviously didn't boom in Pittsburgh, but we'll see what happens here at the Giants.
And I just want to clear up something, Alex, that with Colin Johnston, those stats that you mentioned were from his rookie season in the NFL with Jacksonville Jaguars in 2020. But not.
Sorry, yeah. Did I say college?
You just said in college. I just wanted to. Yeah, no, you're fine. You're all good.
I remembered last year's draft. I really liked him coming out, so it will be interesting to see what he does.
It is still cool, though, that most of these players are between the ages of, I think it's 23 and 24 years old. I know Hiller's 24. I know Johnson is 23. I have to double check. I'm sure Roche is younger than both of them. So let me take a look at that now. If Alex doesn't get it before me, I guess it's a race to see who can do it. I win. He is also 23 years old. Yeah, so I got it right the first time. I didn't even need to double check. Between the ages of 23 and 24 years old, I think good signings to pick up today in this waiver period. Another one that I've actually known as, somewhat following the Patriots, so I can trash talk to our friend Peter, and that is Ryan Izzo was added to the Giants practice squad. He was with the New York Giants for a little bit. I think he went on the Texans this preseason before being cut by them. And he was with the Pats when Joe Judge was the coach there. 18 games played for Ryan Izzo in about 2 years. So a younger player, I think a nice pickup for the New York Giants. Another thing, I know we're bouncing around here, but I just want to make sure we get every point across. I should have mentioned this closer to the 53-man roster. A big one here is Aaron Robinson, the Giants' 3rd-round pick from this past 2021 NFL draft. Where was he when I mentioned the cornerbacks? This is because he is not on the roster, as he's going to start the season on the PUP list, which is an unfortunate statement. This also means that he will miss the first 6 games of the NFL season. There is no way for him to avoid that, to my knowledge. So, he will miss the first 6 games of the season. So sad that we won't be able to see him. Kind of reminds me of Xavier McKinney, to be honest, starting the season. Another young player on the defensive side of things that we were not able to see till late. Hopefully it's not as late, and I'm not cursing it like McKinney, where we didn't see him until like the last 3 or 4 games of the season. Hopefully in that 7th game, he's healthy, he's ready, he comes right in. But, so far in these past few seasons haven't had much luck getting into the season on the, defensive side of things with cornerbacks and safeties injury wise.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely unfortunate for Aaron Robinson. I liked him a lot. Hopefully we get to see him midway through the season. We'll go to the practice squad now. We'll go through the guys that we have. So on the offensive line, we have Kenny Wiggins, Jackson Barton, Jake Burton. Those are the two Burton Bartons that I was discussing earlier. Yes, I did just say Burton Barton. And then the final O lineman there is Brett Hedgie. Running backs, we have Platzgummer and Dexter Williams. Wide receivers, Matt Cole, David Sills Army. It's okay. Maybe you can still make it on for a few games this season. David Sills will be on the practice squad. Damian Willis will be on the practice squad. And at tight end, we have 4 tight ends, Nakia Griffin-Stewart, Jake Hausman, Ryan Izzo, and Chris Miarek. Don't ask me. And then with the D lineman, we have David Moa, Willie Henry, who did impress a decent amount in preseason, and Nico Lalos at linebacker, and Jordan Peters at safety. So the practice squad can have only 16 players. It's new, actually. It used to be 12. It was 10 and then 12, and now it's 16, and that's due to COVID-19. So 6 players on the practice squad can have unlimited NFL experience. The salaries are $9,200 a week for those who have 2 or fewer years, $14,000 a week for veterans. And teams can protect 4 players on the practice squad each week. While protected, these players cannot be signed to active rosters. And that's
yeah. Oh, go ahead. And that's I want you to finish out your statement.
And that's pretty much it. Is what I was just gonna say.
I was just gonna say, Alex. I mean, making $9,200 a week. I would take that for just practicing with the team. I mean, you're getting your ass handed to you most likely every practice by the starting squad, but I'll take my ass getting handed to me any day if I'm getting paid $9,200 a week and $14,000 if I'm a veteran. I have no problem with that. You can give that to me any day. I mean, these guys are getting. It's crazy to see when like these players who are trying to prove it. They get the prove it deals of like the 1 year $750,000 or like the $920,000 deal, and that's like a rookie salary, and it's just like it's $920,000, man. For you getting that for 1 year. But yeah, I like most of these guys, and I have no problem with them being here, especially most of them are young. I know I mentioned Willie Henry in the video I recorded yesterday. He's been in the league for a little bit. He was with the Ravens, and he's 27 years old, so he's one of the older guys. Sandro Platzgummer just keeps on staying with the team. Obviously comes over from Australia. I think it's Australia. I think he's from Austria. I knew it was one of the Aus, but
one of the Aus.
One of the Aus, but yeah. So Austria he comes from, but yes, just staying with the team. I'm interested to see if he gets claimed by a team. Maybe because like no one wants to take a risk on him. I don't know, but are you sure it's Austria, Alex? You have that right? I really thought it was Australia. I'm really that bad. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's yeah. You're right. Damn it. Okay.
All right. Moving on. So Board, Pettis, and Trent Harris were officially cut. Obviously, CJ Board came back. Pettis and Harris are out. Neither of them on the practice squad either. I think they could probably both be claimed off waivers. We'll see what happens. But yeah, kind of unfortunate. I really like Trent Harris, so I kind of thought that he should have kept his spot on the roster. But I guess, what happens. It's a business. So they had to go. And the Giants placed John Ross and Ellerson Smith on the IR, which gave room to those 2 guys. Who are the 2 guys? CJ Board and Casey Kreider to get back on the roster. And that made the 53 there. So that's pretty much how the roster turned out. And we have a couple other tidbits here. I'll read the first one. Josh will read the second one. So courtesy of Dan Duggan here, the Giants will retire Michael Strahan's number 92 on November 28th when they host the Eagles. The ceremony makes it official. No one has worn the number since Strahan's retirement in 2007. Eli's, obviously, as we know, will be retired on September 26th when the Giants host the Falcons. We'll be there. Very excited for that. Josh, you go to the 2022 draft news that we have.
And just before I do go to that, I think the announcement was pretty cool on GMA this morning, as obviously Michael Strahan hosts. We had, who was it? It was Justin Tuck, Eli Manning, and there was one more
There was one more guy. I forget who he was.
Was it Hayward?
It wasn't like it wasn't someone like I didn't know, so it was someone reasonably big, but I don't
Here,
remember.
if you can get that, Alex, real quick.
It was Tuck, but
no, not obviously not
not
Tuck. We knew
Tuck.
Tuck.
Okay.
No, the third person that was there, Justin Tuck, Eli Manning, and as Eli Manning noted on Twitter, he loves jumping out of crates, which is how he surprised Michael Strahan. If you can get that while I read the last one, that would be great,
Yeah.
Alex. I know they asked him a question in the interview, so if you want to pull that up.
Oh,
but
Jesse
anyway,
Armstead. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Hayward. I don't even know who I was thinking of.
Jesse.
But Jesse Armstead, Justin Tuck, Eli Manning surprised Michael Strahan today. All right, let's go to the updated draft board. I just wanted to mention this before we go to the interview. With Ben Bredesen, now part of the New York Giants, the Giants have 10 picks. So here we go. A first because of the Bears. Second, third, another third because of the Dolphins. A fourth because of the Bears or Giants. I mean, it depends. Fifth because of the Ravens. Sixth, seventh, Panthers or Giants. I don't know what I'm saying. I was like saying it's going to belong to the Bears or Giants. I think it's whoever gave them the pick, right? I don't know. It's like noted weirdly.
Yeah, it's so 4th round pick from the Bears and then 7th round pick from the Panthers that we get. We get both of those picks, assuming that Ryan Santoso doesn't break his leg.
Okay.
And then there's also another 7th round pick here from the Ravens as well.
Right. So the Giants lost a 7th round pick for Billy Price and their 4th for Ben Bredesen, but get back a 5th and a 2023 7th, like Alex mentioned. I think we should throw it to the interview because that's really what people have been waiting for. Obviously, they wanted to get this Giants news firsthand. I'm sure we know that. But I guess we'll go to this interview now with Kenny Albert. Go enjoy. So we are back now with a very special guest. And you tell me if this is right. I believe you are the only sportscaster who currently calls all 4 play-by-play sports of the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and the NHL in the United States and Canada. The NHL lead play-by-play voice for this upcoming NHL season on Turner Sports. The New York Knicks television play-by-play broadcaster, MLB on Fox play-by-play, NFL on Fox, Rangers radio, NHL radio, and also I believe you do the Washington football team play-by-play during the preseason as well, correct?
I just wrapped up the preseason, yes.
There we go. It is Mr. Kenny Albert. Kenny, how are you today?
I'm great, Josh. Hi, Alex. Great to be with you guys. Thanks for the very kind introduction.
We're really excited to talk to you, and I think Alex will get it started.
Yeah. So first, we'll talk about how you do all 4 major sports. So we have like a little quote here, or kind of like a blurb about what you did at one point. So on October 25th, 2009, you called the play-by-play of the Minnesota Vikings Pittsburgh Steelers game for Fox. And then you hosted the New York Yankees locker room later that day. And the next day, you broadcasted a Rangers game on the radio and called the play-by-play for the Knicks season opener. So basically the question is, how do you do that?
Well, very fortunate, guys, to be involved in so many different sports. I've been with Madison Square Garden Network since 1995, working the Rangers games on the radio, and they slide me over and I work about 20 Knicks games on the TV side. Fox Sports since 1994, doing football every year and baseball during several of those years. And you mentioned the national hockey work on the television side with NBC for the last 10 or 12 years, and now moving forward with Turner Sports. So really fortunate to be involved in all 4 sports. I love the variety. My schedule sort of fits together like a jigsaw puzzle. And that week that you mentioned in 2009, that certainly stands out among the most memorable time frames of my career, working all 4 sports within the span of that 1 week.
And now kind of going back to your early childhood years, obviously you are within a family of sports broadcasters. Is that how you made your decision? You kind of looked up to your father, and I know your uncle was a sportscaster as well. How does that kind of work growing up in a whole family of sports broadcasters?
Absolutely. I was around it all the time from a young age. When I was 5 years old, my parents bought me a tape recorder for my birthday, and I started announcing games into the tape recorder and set up my room like a TV or radio studio. And it's really all I ever wanted to do. And I learned a lot via osmosis, by listening and watching. And I always joke that family get-togethers were like the first all-sports radio station. I would sit around and listen to the stories that my father and my uncles would tell. So um, always loved the variety. Very fortunate in high school when I was in 10th grade, a local cable station, Cox Cable of Great Neck, came to my school to film a girls' basketball game, and I volunteered. They didn't have an announcer with them. They just had two cameras and a small production van. So I volunteered to announce the game. They clipped a microphone onto my shirt. And over the next 3 years, I had the opportunity to broadcast probably 75 to 100 other high school and Division III college sporting events. And I felt like I had a head start back then. Unlike these days when there are sportscasting camps available to high school and college students and other opportunities out there at such a young age. Back when I was growing up, these opportunities really did not exist until college. So I felt like I had a 3 year head start calling the games for Cox Cable. I would bring my friends along as color analysts. And by the time I got to college, I had about 75 or 100 games worth of experience, which was invaluable.
I want to go back to one play that specifically is in my mind that you've called. And my question talks about Jose Bautista, ALDS. That shot was unbelievable. The home run, the 3-1 blast, obviously into the second row. And the camera is shaking as he is rounding first base in the stadium. Now, my question for you is, was that the loudest experience environment that you heard calling a game, or has there been something even louder calling a different event?
It was definitely right up there as far as the noise, the just the feel in the stadium that night when Bautista hit the home run against Texas. It was a late afternoon game, so it was probably about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and I'll just never forget the atmosphere in Toronto that night. And that's one of the calls that I get asked about more often than any others. It was in the American League Division Series, and it was a crazy inning, the seventh inning. So many things happened aside from the Bautista home run. So definitely, I would say in the top 3 or 4 as far as the noise level when Bautista did hit that home run.
So we're Giants fans. I'm not sure if you could tell. Josh has his little big blue stuff in the background. So you called 2 memorable touchdowns for the Giants. So I just wanted to ask you which one was your favorite. So I have a couple here. If there's another one, then maybe let me know. But there was that Victor Cruz 99-yard touchdown against the Jets and the Odell to Saquon Barkley touchdown pass. Are there any others, or which one was your favorite?
Those are both very memorable. I figured you would bring up the 99-yard Eli to Victor Cruz. I thought you were going to mention the Daniel Jones game-winning touchdown in his first start against Tampa Bay. I forgot about the Odell Saquon touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
We also had Saquon's first NFL touchdown, I'm pretty sure, during his rookie season. So there have been a number of memorable moments. If I had to pick one, it would probably be the 99-yarder because there haven't been that many that distance in NFL history. That obviously ties a record as far as a touchdown on a play from scrimmage. There have been kickoff and punt returns and interception returns and fumble returns longer from the end zone, but that's the longest you could have on a play from scrimmage. And that was a game that really catapulted the Giants into the postseason when they made their Super Bowl run. So that would probably be the one at the top of the list. Called so many Giant games during the Eli Manning era from his rookie season on, 2004. But I would say the Eli to Victor Cruz 99-yarder would be the one that stands out more than any others.
And I guess we're just talking about all our fandoms now because I have to go to my Knicks. And I just want to ask you, obviously, as you just said, you're about to call 20 or so games this upcoming season. This is a good season to be calling those games. Obviously, they made some moves in the offseason, re-signed some good players. They brought in Kemba Walker. They brought in Evan Fournier, did some good draft picks, getting Miles McBride, Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims, and a few other players into the Knicks locker room. Had a good summer league, and it looks like some nice young players are coming up. I just want to know your expectations heading into the season for the Knicks.
Well, a lot of excitement with both the Knicks and the Rangers. As far as the Knicks go, last year was an incredible season, winning 41 games, making it to the postseason, finishing fourth in the conference. Tom Thibodeau winning Coach of the Year, Julius Randle winning Most Improved Player. So again, moving forward with the draft picks you mentioned and Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, the Knicks will certainly look to build on that. On the Rangers side, it's been a build since the 2018 letter that went out to the fans, and had great success in the two lotteries, getting the second and first overall pick, and then signing Artemi Panarin and trading for Adam Fox, who won the Norris Trophy, and now some moves they made this offseason with Ryan Reeves and Sammy Blais and Barkley Goodrow. So a lot of good things happening with both teams at MSG, and the seasons are just around the corner. It's hard to believe because last season went so long. The Knicks played into early June, I guess, late May, early June, and the NHL season did not end until early July. So here we are in early September, and the seasons are just around the corner.
So we had kind of like a boring question here, but I'm going to kind of spin it up and mix it up here. So you're talking about the Rangers, Knicks. So at MSG, which do you feel like you have more enjoyment calling, the Rangers or the Knicks? Like, what's the atmosphere difference?
Oh, I love them both. I've been involved with the Rangers for a lot longer now, 26 seasons, and have worked Knick games, about a quarter of the games now for 10 or 11 years. So, for me as a broadcaster, it's two totally different experiences because we call the Ranger games from the Chase Bridge high above the Garden. We can almost touch the ceiling. And during normal years, pre-COVID, we called the Knick games from the floor, where you're right in the middle of the action and the fans are surrounding you. So much different experiences calling those games, but obviously have a lot of fun and so much excitement every time I step into the building.
I want to ask about preparation for these games because you're looking at all four sports in completely different ways. The rosters are set. So you have the MLB. There's going to be 9 players. There's going to be a pitcher. There's going to be people in the bullpen, people on the bench. Maybe they come in to pitch hit, pinch run. You have NHL, 4 different lines of 5 guys. You got a goalie on each side, maybe some backups play as well if people get injured. The NBA, you're looking at 15 people on a roster, and the NFL, the 53-man. So how many talking points would you say you have on each player for like different sports, and how does the preparation work?
That's a good question, Josh. My preparation is similar for all the sports. The football is the one that consumes the most hours during the week because I might have 2 teams that I haven't seen all season. If I'm doing a Knicks or a Rangers game, I'm so familiar with those teams. You have to study the opponent. When I do a national hockey game, there's obviously more time that goes into it because it's 2 teams that I might not have seen in a while. I have a checklist for all sports leading up to my broadcast. And I usually start with football, you start on Monday for a Sunday game. For a basketball or hockey game, it's 4 or 5 days before. And my checklist includes preparing my own charts and statistics, reading just about every article that's written on both teams over the span of 4, 5, 6 days prior to the game, watching previous games. In football, I always watch the previous game that both teams played. There's a lot of reading involved. I probably read the equivalent of 10 to 15 books every week, but it's newspapers, it's weekly publications, it's articles on the internet, articles that are sent to us by the teams, by Fox, by the various other networks. So I'll go down my checklist. And again, like I said, it's watching prior games, a lot of reading, preparing charts, watching press conferences. Pre-COVID, it was going to practices and press conferences. During the last year and a half, a lot of that's been on Zoom. So pretty similar. For a football game, it's probably 30 to 40 hours of preparation starting on Monday, all week long, Monday through Thursday at home or wherever I might be. And then Friday, we'll go in and go to the home team practice and then meet with some players and coaches. We'll do the same thing Saturday when the visiting team gets into town. So football is the one that's the most time consuming as far as the preparation, but I look at it as fun work. I never feel like I'm going to work. There's a lot of travel and a lot of work and prep involved, but to me, it's a lot of fun studying teams and players and coaches and sports and preparing for a telecast.
So what's it been like with COVID? Not either the fans not being there, or you're unable to be there, and calling the game from a different location. Like what's that like, and how difficult was it to adjust?
Well, Alex, it's been a lot different. When I came home on March 12th, 2020, from a Rangers game in Colorado, I was then home for 146 straight days. Like most of us, you guys and the listeners and viewers, I'm sure, had similar experiences. And then I went to the NHL bubble in Edmonton, which was a lot of fun, actually. We were tested every day inside the bubble, inside the fencing, which surrounded the hotels and the arena, so everybody felt safe, and had the opportunity to call 2 and sometimes 3 NHL games per day in empty arenas. So that was a lot different. With no fans in the building, I had to remind myself to keep up the energy and the enthusiasm. Then when the NFL season began last year, right around a year ago, no fans in a lot of the stadiums, maybe 5,000, 10,000 in some of the stadiums. So again, we all had to remind ourselves to keep the energy and the enthusiasm level up. And then when basketball and hockey started in late December, early January, same thing. We called games at an empty Madison Square Garden for a couple of months, Rangers and Knicks. And then the fans started to come back in. They had a couple of thousand and then a bigger number in the playoffs for the Knicks. So also called many, many games off TV monitors. We did not travel last season with the Knicks and Rangers, so we called the away games off monitors. I just worked the Olympics up in Stamford, Connecticut. I was not in Tokyo. I called some volleyball and baseball games off monitors in a little booth. So it went better than I expected. I felt like during hockey season, I could see about 85% of what I normally would if I were at the game. I might miss a penalty being called away from the play, or you might not see when the goalie's pulled. You might not see what's going on around the bench area. But for the most part, it brought me back to my childhood, actually, when I called games off the television into a tape recorder.
I want to ask you about, obviously you're calling professional sports, and you called professional sports for a long time. So these players, they're going to do some things that are kind of out of this world. But have there been experiences when calling games that you're like, how is this person like doing this on the field? Like, is there any players that come to mind when you think about that?
There are probably times when you do think that. I've witnessed some pretty incredible performances. I was there in a behind the scenes role watching the Dream Team play in Barcelona in 1992. I was at Ron Guidry's 18 strikeout game as a youngster, as a fan. I've seen players score 5 goals in one game. Mika Zibanejad did it last year for the Rangers. I worked a game when Drew Brees and Eli Manning combined to throw 13 touchdown passes. So, I've been fortunate to witness some incredible performances, and that's the beauty of sports. It's the best reality show because you never know what's going to happen out on the ice, the court, or the field.
So you've stated numerous times that baseball is the hardest sport to call. Why is that? And what's in, like, what order would you have them, and what's the easiest sport to call? Not that any of them are easy.
I think baseball is the most challenging from a play-by-play standpoint, only because you have so much downtime. The ball's only in action for 10 to 12 minutes. So it's not necessarily the hardest as far as describing the play and what's going on, but there is all that downtime. To me, hockey's the easiest. Some people that hear that think I'm crazy. A lot of people would think hockey's the hardest, with the constant line changes, changing on the fly, all of the European names. But to me, it's like riding a bike. I've done it for so long. Basketball is similar to hockey, a little slower, more stoppages, but kind of similar as far as the players moving left to right, right to left, attempting to score, although there's a lot more scoring in basketball than in hockey. Football is the most rhythmic. It's one play, and then it's 20 or 30 seconds. And then it's another play, and then it's 20 or 30 seconds. I had to learn a new sport in volleyball for the Olympics, so that's always a great challenge. I love the variety, so it was a lot of fun. But to me, like I said, just because of all the downtime, baseball is probably the most challenging.
I think Alex just wanted to get that out there because he always likes to laugh about baseball. He thinks it's boring. I very much enjoy it. I'm a big Yankee fan, but I think he just wanted to get that out there so he could see if you can say baseball was boring, which I thank you for not saying that. It really,
I never used the word boring.
No, do not, please, because he was just trying to prove a point to me. That's really why I asked the question.
I wonder what Alex would have thought about a 20-inning game I worked about 10 or 11 years ago. Mets and Cardinals won about just under 7 hours. No score, Alex, through the first 18 innings in that game.
That's my nightmare.
I think any baseball game is your nightmare, Alex. Let's just say that. We thank you so much for your time with us. We really appreciate it. Obviously, you can go see Kenny Albert on basically when you're watching any sporting event, but specifically, you will see him this season, like he mentioned, like I mentioned, the lead play-by-play voice on Turner Sports. He's on the Knicks broadcast with MSG, the Rangers, MLB on Fox, NFL on Fox. And we are really excited to call games for this upcoming NFL season specifically because obviously it is what this podcast is about. And do you have a Giants game? Do you know in your schedule?
I have the Giants week 3 and week 4. We have our first 4 weeks. So I'm in Indianapolis for the Seahawks the first week. The Rams back at Indy the second week. So 2 straight weeks in Indianapolis. Atlanta at the Giants, and then the Giants and the Saints week 4.
We're going to be at that Atlanta game. So we're really excited that you're
That'll be a big one. They're
that.
retiring Eli's number that day.
Yeah.
We got those tickets before it happened too, so we were really excited about that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Kenny Albert, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you having me on.